use it. You know, and I mean a dangerous position, a multiple pile-up, use your red flag. You know, we're much better to sort of to rerun the race than have another incident on top of the one we've got. I think that's all, gentlemen. I think the first race is 11:30, so we'll all be on the water 11:15. It's 5 past. Good sport, gentlemen, to you all. Thank you very much.
The fleet of rescue boats is under the command of Barry Gatt, rescue officer.
A team of us are in charge of the whole water and all rescue operations during the racing. Mostly we do sort of towing in or towing them off the course if they break down, but then in sort of accidents, that's when we really swing into action and sort them out and get them off the bottom and all this sort of thing. I like to control operations from the middle. I wouldn't say I go to every incident, but every flip or roll I go and just see that it's been, and if need be, if the driver was trapped underneath the boat, we could send somebody down. Every one of our boats has a bottle in, an air tank. It's not the ideal thing to carry about 12 hours a day, but Trudy is bottled up the whole of the day.
Right, start and finish procedure. Pontoon starts. Dead engine, red and green light system. There'll be a 5-minute countdown.
Officer of the day, Bob Goodfellow.
With the klaxon, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then on 1 minute, it will be down to the starter. Vic Hitchcock on the pontoons will tell you to kill your engines, which you should have normally done anyway. When you're all ready and in position, he will signal the starter, and within that 1 minute, between 60 seconds and 0, Dave Burgess will put on the red light. That red light is for you to put your fuel pumps on, and within seconds then, the green light will go on, and you are off. Any man that jumps the gun, his number will be taken, and he will be docked a lap.
The driver's briefing is compulsory. Anyone not present will not be allowed to race. It's another of those rules strictly enforced in the interest of safety of the drivers themselves. As in motorsport, the centre of activity is the pits. Here, the boats are launched for the first race. Not only should they be in a high state of preparation, the drivers should too.
Well, firstly, you've obviously got to try and ensure that you can keep reasonably dry. So I'm wearing a waterproof anorak. When you're racing out there, obviously you're getting the spray of the other boats, which you'll get pretty cold out there, so it's important to try and keep warm. Secondly, I wear a back support additional to the life jacket, because you're subjected to quite a lot of strain tipping you out of the boat one way and the other. And before now, if I haven't been wearing the back support in rough races, I have, got quite a bit of, back pain the week after, so to speak. Then after that, wear a life jacket, which gives you more support. It's all fully padded, pretty solid stuff. On that goes. And this really does hold everything together. Make sure that nothing comes apart during the race at all. Quite often with the catamarans, they'll tend to fly up in the air, and you can get some pretty severe injuries just being thrown clear of the boat, because there's not that much room in the cockpit. Also, it's got a hood round the back of it, which will also keep your helmet in place so that you don't get too much rocketing with your head. You're obviously wearing a helmet on top that's designed so that the air's always coming through the helmet, so that if you get spray in front of you, which will often happen, it doesn't all mist up.
You've got this jacket which is attached to your life jacket, which is also the ignition switch, which you insert down here onto that red one. So then, if you do get thrown out of the boat, that pulls off and shuts everything off, all the electrics, and it makes the boat safe. You then have on the steering wheel these 3 buttons, which operate hydraulically the performance of the engine inwards or outwards to give you more speed or less speed. And under there, on the pedal, there's also a foot button which trims the engine in. You trim for most corners, and depending on the strength of the wind you're driving into, then you trim the engine accordingly. If you've got a strong wind, you trim the motor in a little. If the wind fails off or you're going with the wind, you trim the motor out to give you more speed. But the trimming out of the engine is so important for the safety of the boat.
Whilst the correct trimming of the outboard motor is vital for success, The driver also has to choose the right propeller, in much the same way that a racing driver would choose wet or dry weather tyres.
Half the winning of races is done before they even start, when, for instance, we're using propeller setups and different gear ratios before a race even starts. That's the most important part, is to make the correct propeller selection. As far as on the course is concerned, obviously if you've got a long distance race, then you drive the engine to those conditions. You know, you don't put too many revs on and hope that you'll finish at the end of maybe a 2 or 3 hour race, rather than out and out top revs in a sprint race.
The boats are allowed a couple of laps to warm up their engines. Then, the red flag. The water is closed to all but officials. The race is about to start. For the first time at Chasewater, they're using a standing start. The rescue boats motor out to check the 1,500-metre course and the 4 polystyrene buoys used to mark the corners of the circuit. Then they take up positions for the race. It's a heat for the Formula 2 boats. The big race, the Formula 1 Grand Prix, comes later. That's what most of the crowd has come to see. It's also cheaper to stand and watch or record the excitement on film. It's an expensive sport. Powerboats can cost in the region of £12,000. Each meeting like this can cost a boat owner another £1,000 in engine repairs, mechanics fees, fuel bills and so on. Yet another parallel with motor racing on dry land.
In motorsport, they have to sit on an exact correct line, and they have very much following right behind each other, so they get some slipstreaming, and then they seem to nip out and go along and get into the right line for the next corner. Ours, we choose our own line all the time, really reading the water. We can come into a buoy very, very tight and leave it wide, or we can come in wide and lead it tightly. And we're looking at what the drivers behind are likely to do. If you come in very tight and then leave it tight, they've got to go right round the outside of you. If you know that they're going to try and come in through the inside, then you take a very tight line round the course. But in doing that, you lose revolutions because you can't keep the speed of the boat up high all the time.
It looks embarrassing when a powerful machine costing thousands of pounds is towed in by a relatively inexpensive motorboat. But it's safer for all concerned to be towed out of the way when your engine lets you down. With boats travelling at over 100 miles an hour, the water becomes as hard as concrete. The spray from the boat in front, the rooster tail, poses particularly hazardous problems.
2 weeks ago, I went right through the rooster of a boat, and the water impact was enough to break my visor and also smash the whole cowling in, and all this fiberglass broken against the wheel. I'm having to break pieces out and try and turn the wheel. It's very, very strong, and in fact there's a terrific danger. You've just got to go straight across it at an angle, otherwise the water's very, very heavy and the boat will just lift up, and then you'll have this horrendous flipping situation.
For each class there are 4 heats. That means a total of 18 races during the weekend. The organisers have been planning the event for months. It demands much from all concerned and extracts more than its share of wear and tear from machines, drivers and rescue crews. The big catamarans form the upmarket side of the business, supported in these hard times by works teams and inevitably by sponsorship. For the driver who can't meet the soaring costs of racing, there's always a chance to look back to the origins of the sport, monohulls.
I started in monohulls, as most people do. It's the grassroots of the sport, And in those days, they only did about 45, 50 miles an hour. Now they're doing 70, 80 miles an hour. And the monohull boat is rolling from chine to chine, from chine to chine. They're very, very lightly balanced in the back end. The whole configuration is getting them up high on the water.
The big attraction of monohulls is price. They're boats which the average club member can afford. They're also a thrilling introduction to powerboat racing. At speed, with so little of the boat in the water, they're unpredictable. Unlike the catamarans, which have a tendency to flip over, the monohulls have the nasty habit of rolling over when they're pushed too far. Even though there's a man in the water and a boat the wrong way up on the circuit, racing continues. The yellow flags warn the other drivers, and unlike motor racing, there's plenty of room for them to avoid the incident. It's been a narrow escape for boat number 42. The driver suffered nothing worse than an unceremonious ducking. By the time the Formula One cats are let out of the bag for their first heat, the wind has freshened, ruffling the surface of Chasewater and making it unpleasantly choppy, not ideal conditions. Unlike the monohulls which roll, the catamarans tend to somersault when in difficulty. For top speeds, the drivers aim to keep as much of the boat out of the water as possible. But this can have disastrous consequences. The wind can get under the tunnel of the boat and cause it to flip backwards. If the driver eases off the accelerator, the boat can nosedive. This time it's Formula One driver Anthony Hiscock who's in the water. Every driver involved in any kind of accident is automatically assumed to be badly hurt and is treated as such by the rescue crews.
At big powerboat races, such as we have this weekend, which is an international event, I insist on at least 2 doctors. One is on the water, and I remain on land.
The boat may have looked a write-off, but happily in this incident, the driver suffered no more than a dampened spirit.
The injuries we get are usually spinal. This is the first injury we suspect if anybody can't move, and they have to be treated very carefully. If there's any doubt, we treat them as a fractured neck or a fractured spine until we get them to hospital. We only had one bad accident here last year, a broken spine, but he was reasonably well attended to, and he made a full recovery.
Well, I was chasing Andy Bateman, who passed me on the bottom corner, and